Welcome to Film at 50, a podcast that celebrates semi-centennials in the world of cinema. I'm your host, Brian Rowe. Very excited to welcome Marcus Gorman back to the podcast to talk about Butterflies Are Free, the Oscar-winning comedy drama released in July of 1972. How are we doing, Marcus?
We're doing just fine. The film festival is over. I did my first paneling at Crypticon, a horror convention where I talked about shock and roll, so rock and roll horror movies.
Cool.
The 90s Strike Back, where I defended 90s horror film, which is considered like one of the dark ages of horror cinema. But I'm like, there's plenty of great independent stuff happening here. It's just the studio stuff up until Scream was not very good, and we all kind of agree on that. And then I did something called We Need to Talk About Kevin, which was about the current influx of psychological horror and why now.
So moving from all this talk of horror to Butterflies Are Free.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, like horror and musicals are kind of the same to me. Musicals and slasher films especially have the same rhythms, and me liking musicals feeds into my love of theater. This is very much a play on film, directed by the guy who directed the play and adapted by the playwright himself for the screen. So this all ties together in my own brain.
Yes, we both love the theater and, films that are adapted from theater. And it's so interesting. Every time I watch one, I actually put this on. I did my research after I watched the movie yesterday, and I knew within about 10 minutes, I'm like, I think this is based on a play. Usually, sometimes it's not as obvious. It kind of depends on the material and the director and everything. But this one, you could tell it was based on a play. You could tell pretty early on.
Yeah, usually it's, an establishing shot of a cool city, and then they go inside of a room and never leave the room.
Exactly. Yeah. We do go outside and Butterflies Are Free. It's not just two people talking in a room for an hour and a half by any means. We do go outside. We go into a car, right?
Yeah. we buy some fashion.
Yeah. We have, really there's like three major characters in this movie, and I guess you could argue that director is kind of the fourth one.
Yeah,
but he's only in really one major scene, or he's like briefly later in a second scene. It's really kind of like three major characters in this, kind of coming in and out of each other's lives. And I did not know much about this movie going in. I am a huge Goldie Hawn fan, and I consider myself like a completist. Like, I want to see everything she did. And I think I've seen everything outside of the 70s, including a movie called Crisscross, which I had been searching for years. And it aired on TCM when they did like the Summer Under the Stars and they did a feature on Goldie Hawn for a day, and they showed that movie. And it was bad.
Yeah, that was the day that's how I saw Swing Shift, and then I found the original Jonathan Demme cut online. It's great to watch both of them because they talked about it and on the Blank Check podcast with Griffin and David when they were doing their Jonathan Demme miniseries. Crisscross, is that the one with John Hurd from the 90s?
It was in 92. It was this weird summer for Goldie Hawn, who was not the most prolific actress outside of maybe the 70s. By the early 90s, she was just popping up in a thing here and there. But in one summer, she was in three films. The first one, I believe, was Crisscross, then House Sitter, and then Death Becomes Her. All came out within 2 months of each other. And the one that really just kind of died and went away forever was Crisscross, a rare drama for her. It's not funny at all. It's like a coming of age story about her son. And she plays a stripper in it. And it just sounded really weird. And I'm like, I kind of want to see this, but it was not readily available anywhere.
Well, I'm lucky enough. I've mentioned them before. I live 10 minutes from Scarecrow Video. And they will also rent by mail if anybody's listening and you have a DVD or Blu-ray in mind of something very rare. Pay $5 shipping and you can get it from anywhere in the United States. It's the largest video archive in the world.
Any movie that has been released in physical media format, if they don't have it, they can bring it to you.
Exactly.
Awesome.
They definitely will not ship VHS.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so I've seen most of her work, and then I want to say there's still like 3 or 4 70s films she's in I have not seen. But part of the reason I was excited to start this podcast, I had seen her first film, Cactus Flower from '69, which I adore. I think is a lot of fun. But then she like had this run of films that I'd never seen, like There's a Girl in My Soup with Peter Sellers, which was the episode we recorded a few months ago where we talked about her career. That I had some issues with that movie, but it was interesting. And then I didn't do it for the podcast. She had a weirdly titled movie called Dollars. Have you heard of that? With Warren Beatty. It's Warren Beatty and Goldie Hawn. And the title is not DOLLARS. It's just the symbol.
Oh, no.
That's the title. It's so weird. And I watched it. I was thinking about doing it. It came out in December. December releases are tough because there's usually like 8 to 10 movies I want to do an episode for, but we only do one episode every Friday. So I was like, okay, I'm picking like 5 of these 9 titles. And I watched Dollars and it just wasn't that great. So I said, I can skip this one.
Oh, that's a really good log line. I'm looking at it right now. It's just $. I was going to joke, it's a dollar and the S is a $. No, it's just the symbol.
Yeah. So she was making a lot of films around this time. She, of course, won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for Cactus Flower. Kind of interesting that we're talking about a movie today, a movie that came out not at the end of the year, in the summer, earlier in the year. And we're talking about a movie today that also won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, but not for Goldie Hawn.
Right.
Eileen
Which is weird
Heckert.
because one would think that this would be the one that she would win an Oscar for. In Cactus Flower, she definitely stands out among the older, more groomed actors, and she's coming off of Laugh-In at that point.
Yeah.
So that makes sense that she'd be like newcomer of the year. But this is obviously a bigger performance and covering for somebody who did it great on Broadway, who did not get to play it in the film.
Right. So on Broadway was Blythe Danner, is that correct?
It was Blythe Danner, yeah.
Okay.
And the lead was I've never learned how to pronounce his name, Keir Dullea from 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh, right. Okay.
So he was a lead, but the Eileen Heckart and the other character, they both did it on Broadway. This was a huge hit on Broadway. It ran for almost 3 years.
Wow.
It did not win Best Play that year. That was Borstal Boy by Frank McMahon, also up against Indians, the Arthur Coppett play that became the Altman film Buffalo Bill and the Indians, and also Last of the Red Hot Lovers.
Okay.
By Neil Simon. So Blythe Danner actually does win Best Featured Actress in a Play at the Tonys over Eileen Heckart. So Eileen winning for the film was maybe leftover praise for the play itself, which ran for a long time. And when she left, Gloria Swanson took over in the role on stage, among other people, which would have been really cool. These plays were just really big around this time. We'll get into a little bit later about how this film is an interesting tale of disability 50 years ago.
Right. Oh, exactly. Yeah, we definitely have to talk about that. So yeah, as you mentioned, this was very popular on Broadway. So it opened in October of '69. It ran for over 1,100 performances. It closed on July 2nd, 1972. The movie came out in July of '72. Do you think it had something to do with that, or was that a coincidence? I wonder.
I think it's just a coincidence.
Like, it wasn't one of those things where the movie, like the show has to end before the movie can open. I feel like that happened once.
Oh, no, you're right. No, that does happen quite a bit. I'm sorry, I kind of spaced on your question when I was looking up.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to remember. There was a film that got delayed a year or something. I'm trying to remember the title of it. It was because the Broadway show was so popular. Yeah, it just kept going, and so the movie had to be delayed.
I'm curious about what that is, because usually you can't even make the movie without the rights. That's why Hello Dolly came out in 1969, way after it was of interest. And it did okay, it is considered a bomb in the end of the golden age of the Hollywood musical. So yeah, that's why we got Phantom of the Opera 20 plus years after it came out, and now we're finally getting Wicked, which is somehow being split into 2 movies. Oh,
I haven't heard that. I heard the casting choices announced, but they're splitting it into 2 films. Why would they do that?
Because the book it's based on is part of a larger series, and I guess they're for some reason Universal has not learned from Cats or Dear Evan Hansen that the theater crowd is actually pretty small when it comes to movie box office, but they feel like they have a mega hit on their hand and they have enough story to tell. Hopefully they change their minds, because that's a play I think is a little overpraised. It's definitely not for me, but 2 hours and 45 minutes is enough.
That should absolutely be one film. That's crazy to me that they would split that. I mean, that's not, it's not a giant franchise film. I understand when you have like a Harry Potter running for 10 years and the last book is 700 pages and there's really nothing to leave out, and makes sense in that case, split into two. And that, what I liked about Harry Potter, the last two films, was the two final films felt very different from each other. Like part one was almost like a different genre of movie. It's like a road movie. And then part two was like the battle at Hogwarts. That made sense there, but to split Wicked into two movies, that I really hope that doesn't happen. That to me is a very like self-contained one story. That should be one film,
right?
Because if they split that into two movies, it's not going to get any awards. Like, it has to be one.
Right. Maybe they saw how Dune did. Like, it got a lot of awards for being part one, but Dune is different than Wicked. I'll say that. Yeah.
That's a little bit of a different story. I'm glad that Butterflies Are Free was not split into two films. You think that would have been overkill?
So yeah, you're right. They probably waited for it to run its course and then made it, because it wasn't like they gave it to the studio. It's the same creative team.
Yeah, but I feel like it would make sense for the Broadway show to keep going like after the movie had come out, because then there'd be more awareness of the show, and you think that would allow more people to buy tickets. But I don't know, maybe it's the opposite.
Yeah, that only happens sometimes. Like Phantom is still running big. Les Mis ran pretty big, and had a revival. But Chicago obviously is lasting forever, and the movie didn't change that at all.
Right.
A lot of it because the play of Chicago, the current revival, is very cheap to produce, and you can fill in a celebrity whenever you want and get the money back in. No, theater doesn't quite work that way. Oddly enough, for Broadway, when you make a film, that usually means you feel like it's on its last legs and you're ready to expand into a different market. But it's for different eyes. Yeah.
So the film was written by Leonard Gersh. Is that how you say his last name? Gersh, based on his 1969 play. He was nominated for an Academy Award for Funny Face from 1957.
Oh yes.
So that was the big credit. The other big credit on his filmography that I looked up was Funny Face.
Funny Face is great with
Audrey Hepburn.
Audrey Hepburn and Fred Astaire to the Gershwin music. And it's that's when all the musicals were about fashion. That and Roberta and its remake. That's a really underrated film, because Fred Astaire is not really considered cool anymore. Like, we still stick around to Gene Kelly and that ilk, but Fred Astaire was always kind of prim and proper, but he's also hilarious.
Yeah, so that's a really great credit for him. And then after Butterflies Are Free, I feel like he'd written a couple things I hadn't heard of, and this was kind of like the last really big film project for him. Same thing with the director, Milton. How do you say his last name? Katselas. His filmography is pretty small.
Yeah, that happens when you're a theater director who breaks into film, like Susan Stroman, who is a theater director, choreographer. She did both for the producers, and then she directed the producers' film. When you're a theater person and you expand to film, you usually keep it pretty small. The woman who made Mamma Mia only made one other film, and that was The Iron Lady.
Right. Is that I was just thinking about her, because I know she directed the Mamma Mia, and I remember being kind of like, oh, she's directing Iron Lady. Kind of, can't get more different for Mamma Mia than that. And I was just thinking right now, it's like, has she made another movie since 2011? Was that the last one?
I think that's the last one.
Maybe she's done something else, maybe in television, but she is mostly directed theater.
Yeah, like the person who directed The Music Man and Auntie Mame, they also directed the stage versions of that and then adapted it themselves and really didn't do anything else. And I'm actually very happy for that, because both those movies, as praised as they are pretty stiff in terms of cinematography and staging.
So not everyone can be Mike Nichols, who I feel like is the person that really was able to dive into both back and forth his entire career.
Well, he was somebody who was known for being actor friendly.
Okay.
And two, he was willing to adapt and learn and collaborate to make his things look right. Sometimes it didn't work. Say Jack Nicholson in Wolf. which even Mike Nichols admits he got the tone completely wrong and he was out of his depth.
Mm. Yeah, no, I mean, not everything was a success. I feel like if his first two movies had not done very well, maybe it would have been a different kind of film career for him. But because the first two were so popular and critically acclaimed, that probably helped, right?
Yeah.
Especially when he had a couple flops later on. Like, I feel like when you have those first two movies on your resume, people will give you money to make another film, unless you're just like pumping out one bomb after another.
Yeah.
So, but that was the case with him. Butterflies Are Free it wasn't always going to be this cast. There were some other considerations. Did you hear who else was being considered for Mrs. Baker?
Yes, but you should tell me.
The Oscar-winning role: Ingrid Bergman, Olivia de Havilland, and Angela Lansbury. I'm like, any one of those three, I think, would have been great. I mean, I don't think I'm sometimes I see lists of considerations and I'm like, oh, no. I think Heckert is kind of perfect for this role. Not that I'm very familiar with her career, but she just like nailed that character so well. I think she was the right choice. But like I could especially see Angela Lansbury in that role, like circa 72. This is right. Would this be right after Bedknobs and Broomsticks? And I could see it. Like I can see that. But I think Heckert, it's her voice, man. Heckert's voice, there was something about it. I was just taken with her the whole movie. I loved it.
And it's a really tough needle to thread, that character, because she is a nag, but she actually has the biggest arc in the film, because he always kind of knows what he wants to do, then loses a little bit when Goldie starts dating the other guy. But the mother goes from being, very protective to actually learning that her son has grown up.
Right.
And so she's not quite villainous. She starts off as annoying, but not like, I want to kill this person. It's just, you're a bit of a nag. And if you play it too hard in one way or the other, it wouldn't work. But for somebody who did it, on stage, maybe 300, 400 times, she figured out the nuance really well. And I think that's what voters were responding to in a very strange year for cinema.
Yeah, 72. What do you make of this year in cinema, Marcus?
It's so weird because I'm looking at who she was nominated, who she won over. It's Jenny Berlin in The Heartbreak Kid, Elaine May's daughter, who's wonderful in The Heartbreak Kid and probably should have won were she a bigger name, and also maybe, not the daughter of the filmmaker. Geraldine Page in Pete and Tilly, the Carol Burnett, Walter Matthau movie I have not seen but really want to. Susan Tyrrell in Fat City, which is a very strong performance. I don't know what. Yeah, and
we're talking about that in a couple weeks. That came out in July as well.
And then Shelley Winters in The Poseidon Adventure, which is an incredible performance. I saw that last year, and she runs away with the movie in a way you don't see in disaster movies anymore. She is the beating heart. She is the comic relief. She is so good in that. But because it's like this blockbuster film, maybe she didn't even have a chance. And at that point, she had at least one Oscar.
I feel like The Poseidon Adventure is a title that you wouldn't normally think, oh, this should get an acting Oscar. Like, I don't know if enough voters were on board with that. I feel like she was probably second place. I mean, I just don't know if any of these other three. I mean, I think The Heartbreak Kid, that came out in December. That was a popular film and acclaimed. I don't know if Jeannie Berlin was known well enough. Like, have you seen Heartbreak Kid?
No.
Okay, because I don't know how much of that movie she's in, but everything.
Oh no, have I seen Heartbreak Kid? Sorry, yes, I have. Yes,
is she in it a lot of the movie? Or
she's in it a lot. Oh no, she's in it a lot.
Okay.
She's the one Charles Grodin marries and is on the honeymoon with when he sees Sybil Shepherd and falls in love with her. So it's the Malin in the
Malin
remake.
Ackerman.
Exactly. Oh my God, Heartbreak Kid is such a great movie. I thought you said if I had seen her in something pre-Kid. I don't know what you had said.
Oh, no. Yeah. Heartbreak Kid is one of the 1972 titles I am most excited to watch because I absolutely adored A New Leaf last year, watching that for the first time. And Heartbreak Kid, I've heard great things about.
It's the cringiest movie you've ever seen. So it's directed by Elaine May and written by Neil Simon, and they're butting heads the entire time.
Oh, okay.
And Jeannie Berlin is like the heart of the film. She's the sweet one who gets her heart broken, and so you see her go. She has the showiest role all over it, whereas Charles Grodin is basically being Charles Grodin amped up to 11, and Sybil Shepherd is very intentionally just the object of his affection, but then we find out has more nuance than his stupid little fantasy.
Yeah, so I'm excited to watch that. Fat City, I feel like wasn't a big enough title. I don't know.
No,
I think that's like its only nomination. If it has another one, I'm not sure, but
I looked at this. I'm like, where are their Godfather nominations? Where is Diane Keaton, and where is Talia Shire, especially because I just rewatched The Godfather and talked about it on a different cast, and she is great in The Godfather.
Shire. Yeah,
Talia Shire is just incredible, and she's great in all of them.
It's very bizarre because The Godfather gets 3 Best Supporting Actor nominations, and but both Diane Keaton and Talia Shire do not show up in Supporting Actress. And it's not like you look at this list of nominees and think, oh, clearly none of these people could be removed. I mean, I think like if Geraldine Page had not made it in for Pete and Tilly, I think people would be okay with that. I don't think people would be freaking out. And so I think Diane Keaton, she's more subtle in The Godfather 1. So, I mean, I could see her missing, but yeah, definitely Talia Shire making it in. I was shocked to learn that Diane Keaton was not nominated for Godfather 2, where she's got that explosive scene with Pacino towards the end. I'm like, Jesus, that's crazy to me that Diane Keaton has an Academy Award. She has a bunch of nominations throughout the decades, but she never got nominated for the Godfather films, which is crazy to me. She should have been. But so the voters picked Eileen Heckart. We should mention as we get more into the movie, like for our listeners who might not have seen this movie, just kind of the basic premises. So a blind man moves into his own apartment against the wishes of his overprotective mother, played by Heckart, who won the Oscar. And her son befriends a free-thinking young woman next door. Most of the film takes place in these kind of apartment units. We go outside a little bit here and there, but it's really a dialogue-driven movie, kind of about this blind man trying to find his way, and he meets Goldie Hawn's character of Jill, and you think it's going to be like this kind of fluffy, kind of meet cute romantic comedy, and that's not what the movie is at all. I thought, like, it's a lot more. It goes deeper in places than you expect, and it's more of a drama than it is a comedy. Right.
Yeah. I think that's also maybe that's why Goldie also didn't get a nomination, because she is playing a comedic role, but it's not in a very big blousy kind of way. It's considering like when this is written, this is pretty subtle and nuanced for what it could be.
Right. And it is interesting that she would win the Oscar for kind of the big comedic performance of Cactus Flower, but then she kind of moves away from that comedic character a bit in Butterflies Are Free, and it has a little bit more of a dramatic edge. And she got in at the Golden Globes, but she doesn't get in at the Oscars. I think it might be a case where I think she had to go in as lead actress, and lead actress at the Oscars it's a packed category. Unlike supporting actress, where I think you could take out 1 or 2. I think lead actress is pretty tight, and I don't know how she would have found her way in. Although the fact that Butterflies Are Free also got nominations at the Oscars for cinematography and sound tells me that there were some fans. So I would bet that Goldie Hawn was probably in the second 5, like was probably, definitely in consideration.
Agreed.
Yeah. But her only other nomination after Cactus Flower is her 1980 Private Benjamin. It's the only other Oscar nomination she got.
Right.
But I think I don't know if she was worthy to win here, but I think a nomination for her in this movie would have been well deserved. I think she creates a really unique character and has some shades to her dramatic performance that we had not seen in any of her previous films. So yeah, I really like Goldie in this.
Jill's a very fantastic role, and I like what she does with it. I would have loved to have seen Blythe Danner's version. I'm sure the New York Public Library has a crappy recording somewhere, because they're always crappy. As Mark Harris has told us many times, whenever we ask for, they have like release all the old tapes. People make money. He's like, they're filmed from the back of the theater with shitty sound. You do not want to see them. I've seen them. I've taken the bullet. But Blythe Danner, usually she tends to play wallflowers who then sort of break out at the end. That's sort of her shtick, at least as long as I've been alive. A little more sensitive, whereas Goldie Hawn is, goofy on the outside and soulful on the inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I think this is around the time she starts to push away from only comedy, starts doing a little bit more drama. She's 2 years away from the Sugarland Express by Steven Spielberg, which is very much a dramatic performance. It's not really a comedy at all.
No, actually, last night I saw the second preview of a musical called Bruce, world premiere musical, which is about the making of Jaws.
What? So a musical?
It's a musical about Spielberg and putting the film together and everything that goes wrong. It's a 1 act, hour 40 musical. Premiere at Seattle Repertory Theater, hopefully on its way to Broadway. And they talk about how he's coming off of his first film, Sugarland Express. And like, that just takes place in a car. Why would we hire him to shoot on the open sea with a shark that doesn't work?
The making of Jaws is almost as interesting as the movie itself, and everything that I mean, what is like the big thing is that it was just going to be 50, 60, 70 days or something, and it went like more than double that. Like, it just went on and on and on, and the crew was just going nuts. That is great material for a Broadway show. I would love to see that. I don't know how you visualize like the shark in the water on the stage. I would be curious to see how that's put together, but I would be there in a heartbeat.
Yeah, the solution is very good. Hopefully Steven Spielberg comes up to Seattle to see it, so we can see the guy who played Frankie Valli for 5 years in Jersey Boys play him.
Yeah, I feel like Steven Spielberg would go see that. I think he'd be open to it. I wonder, do you have to get permission from him to do that show?
Well, it's based off of Carl Gottlieb's memoirs about it. So it's based on the Jaws diaries. So they asked Carl about it because it's his baby.
Okay.
I mean,
I've always wondered how that all works. Like, if you use a real person in your novel, in your play, in your movie, like do you have to get the person to sign off? How does that work? I've never.
No, just don't libel them.
Okay.
Real life figures, I mean, a person's a person. If they feel like you have libeled them and you have affected their career negatively, then there is a court case in that, is my guess. But yeah, just speaking of Sugarland Express and Goldie Hawn, like that's like the fun backstory is, who's this kid from television who doesn't know anything? Oh, he has a vision and we don't have to pay him much, and he doesn't want to use big stars. Sure, why not?
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. So a few other nominations that Butterflies Are Free received. So it got a bunch of Golden Globe nominations. It got Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy, Goldie Hawn for Best Actress in a Motion Picture, Comedy or Musical. I get, like, it's kind of a mix of genres. It's not all drama, not all comedy. Usually when that happens, Golden Globes go comedy, like when The Martian won Best Comedy, which is like ridiculous. Edward Albert received 2 nominations, one for Best Actor and in a comedy, and he won Most Promising Newcomer Male.
I mean, God bless the Golden Globes, and I don't need to watch them ever again because they didn't happen. They did happen this year, but not televised.
Yeah,
but I do miss the Best Newcomer award. Those are always fun because that's what the Globes should be about, not being like an Oscars precursor.
Yeah.
But about like finding the weird little nooks and, being weird about what comedy even means, which is always very funny to me.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see if that show ever comes back, or if it's done. Like, if it's,
I think it's done.
Like, where they'll still go on a Twitter feed and announce their winners of the year, but that'll be it. There won't be any show.
That's okay by me.
It's like up until 2020, man. If you were nominated, you were there. Like, it's like everyone would show up to that thing, and then it's like, oh nope, gone. I don't think anyone's gonna miss it. Shockingly, Eileen Heckart was not nominated for Best Supporting Actress at the Golden Globe. So really? That you don't see that very often. Like, someone not nominated, at least 2020 and prior, not nominated for the Golden Globe and then winning the Oscar. It happens, but it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they had against. Clearly they liked the movie, got picture and actress. Like, I wonder what happened with Heckart there. I wonder why they didn't nominate her.
Very strange.
Was she too old?
I don't know.
Did they not know her well enough? I don't know what happened there. But she won she got the award that means more, so it worked out. And then my last thing I have on here, Gene Siskel liked the film. He gave it 3 stars. He said one of the attractive aspects of the film is that each of the three characters is incomplete and flawed. Vincent Canby of the New York Times did not like the movie. He said the film is not completely without intelligence, but its intelligence is in the service of the kind of sentimentality that shrivels the mind. So let's talk about our thoughts about this movie. Like, so had you seen this before? Was this your first? You had seen the movie before? Okay.
Yeah, and I was sorry, just going back to the Best Supporting Actress thing. I was looking at the Golden Globes. Marisa Berenson had that spot for Cabaret, the Ice Queen character.
Oh, okay.
Because that was my other question: is where's the supporting nominations for Cabaret? But that's really just a female lead and male supporting roles. So that was the trade-off for the Globes.
Interesting, because Cabaret did so well at the Oscars.
Cabaret was supposed to be the big one. Godfather's the dark horse.
Yeah. People forget like Godfather barely got in there for a picture. Like, it only won 3 Oscars. Cabaret won 8, and you had some other titles, but it's like when you look through the list of what won that year, it's just Cabaret.
Mm-hmm. Who's this kid? Frank Coppola.
Yeah, exactly. We're not going to give him Best Director. We'll give him Best Director for the sequel. That's when we'll award him. It's like Peter Jackson finally winning director for the 3rd Lord of the Rings. We'll give it to you on the last one. But I mean, the movie, if I feel like the reviews were kind. I don't know if there were a lot of huge raves about it, but when I put this on, I was expecting kind of like a breezy kind of romantic comedy, kind of like There's a Girl in My Soup. That's what I was expecting when I put this on.
Or like Barbara's Owl and the Pussycat.
Yeah, Owl and the Pussycat, which we talked about. Yeah, I thought it was going to be more like that, even more so than There's a Girl in My Soup. You're absolutely right. Probably the Owl and the Pussycat. But yeah, I found myself getting kind of caught up in the story and with these characters, and the mother-son relationship was my favorite part of the movie. I just really took to that. And I could see this mother, she has a blind son and he's off on his own for the first time in his life. And I could kind of see where she's coming from here. Like, I want you to come home. I want to take care of you. But he's an adult man and he wants to live his own life. And just the way that story plays out all the way to her final scene at the end, I thought that was very moving. That was the part of the movie I liked the best.
Yeah, when she sees him break, because she's always known, you can compare this to Harold and Maude, also because like the son mother relationship, but also this is set in San Francisco, and the mother lives a little further south on the peninsula, which was changed from the play, just like Play It Again, Sam. This is New York, shifted to San Francisco for reasons maybe you saw in your research. Maybe it's because of the same strike that affected Play It Again, Sam, or not, or just because it's San Francisco and hippies are there and it's a cool place to be. But yeah, it's a lovely and nuanced thing. The mother relationship is great because there's kind of this fun little romance happening, and then the plot kicks into gear and you're like, oh, who is this, the Stark Cloud? But no, you get to learn why Don is the way he is and why he is trying to be independent, because like his entire life his mother has tried to create a fantasy version of him through the children's books that she is famous for, Little Donnie Dark, and he is throughout his life just trying, like, I'm not living up to my mother's ideals. She thinks it's like, oh, you're disabled, but you can still be a superhero. You can still be a hero. You can still save people. Because in all these books, he does these death-defying acts and wonderful things for society, whereas he just wants to be a musician. So his whole life, he's been, bumping up against this. And she thinks he's just being immature and juvenile, but turns out, oh no, he's a real man and he doesn't need me anymore. So it flips on her in the last 10 minutes when he does his monologue about wanting to leave, and she finally sees him for the adult that he actually is, and for the first time as a true human being, and not because of his disabilities, that he is able to not be normal, because the point of disability and having a disability is not to be normal. It's to live with it and to be good with that and to understand it and to have the right tools in your chosen family and your blood family to be a good, decent human being.
Absolutely. And I thought the movie, I didn't feel like the movie was struggling with its depiction of a blind man. I felt like I thought it was a solid portrayal. And I think what really helped was was his lead performance. I really took to him, and I don't know if I've seen that actor in any other movie. Have you seen him in anything else?
I've seen him in a couple things when I was looking through his filmography, but it was
Mhm.
nothing huge. He does a sexy movie like the following year. I forget what it's called.
Okay.
But he's the
Edward
thing, like,
Albert.
yeah, Edward Albert, son of Eddie Albert from Green Acres.
Oh, okay.
So
Makes
he's
sense.
progeny. He's kin, he's nepotism, but he does it well. People are like, oh,
Nepotism.
yeah, yeah. Um, so I watched this with my wife, who has never seen this, and she is a disability scholar. She writes about the Freak Show. She writes about blindness and disability, and
Mhm.
she's like, he's doing a fairly good but not great job
Mhm.
about blind acting. He's kind of overdoing it a little bit.
Okay.
But there are still no real blind movies where the leads are played by actual blind people. No
Mm.
major films for the most part, and especially not in 1972. But around this time, people really get into blindness and deafness in the 70s
Mm.
and 60s on stage because they're easy to represent. You got Miracle Worker. The play is 1959. The film is 1962.
Mhm.
Wait Until Dark,
Oh, right.
1966
Audrey
play,
Hepburn.
1967 movie with Audrey Hepburn, and then Children of a Lesser God, 1979 play, 1986
Mhm.
film, R.I.P. William Hurt. So,
Mm.
but they only really are interested in blindness and deafness at this time. So, disability narratives are coming into focus, and this 50 years later doesn't. It still hits a weird few marks. For instance, the touching the face thing.
Oh, okay.
Blind people don't do that. I have a friend. She's a deafblind author and activist,
Mhm.
Elsa Schudison, and she has written about this in her book, Being Seen,
Okay.
one deafblind woman's fight to end ableism.
Mm.
And she has talked a lot about how this trope is entirely on stage and in the movies.
Mm.
So while this movie is very good about disability because it doesn't define him, he has a personality outside of
Yeah.
it, and he is dating an able-bodied person who doesn't judge him for it.
Mhm.
That's really, really cool and progressive in 1972.
Absolutely. Mhm.
In 2022, not as much since we've had these stories. But what's really cool about this, because even recent movies do this is not inspiration porn. This is a
Mm.
story that has a character who happens to be blind and is not in a very ADA accessible apartment.
Yeah, I
That's
was
a
thinking
mess
that
for a
too.
blind person. But the ADA doesn't happen until 1990,
Oh,
18
okay.
years after this. So he would not have to, deal with ask the super or the landlord for an accessible space. The chaos of this room is is an externalization of his interest to go out into the world, even in this weird chaotic loft of an apartment where a bed is on a ladder and he has to feel his way around to the kitchen in what is not a very open planned
Mm.
apartment.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. I really never felt like the movie was, trying to tell a blind man's story and all the different ways that, he has problems in his life. It really felt to me like it's a person who happened to be blind. It wasn't just all about his disability. I like that it really took him seriously as a character, a three-dimensional person, and the way that Albert played it, I thought he did a really good job.
He's really good. Like he was hired because he was really handsome, and that's very helpful for
That too.
this. So this isn't like what's it's called At First Sight with Val Kilmer and Mira
Right.
Sorvino,
Mhm.
which is a bad version of A Blind Story.
Okay. I don't think I've ever seen that movie.
It's not good. It's
Doesn't he
from
like he doesn't he like get his sight back or something?
Yeah, and then it wrecks everything.
Val Kilmer and Mira Sorvino.
Yeah,
So it's not worth a look.
It's from the guy who ran Revolution Studios, the producer turned director, who always has had an interesting career. Erwin Winkler,
Okay.
he directed like America's Sweethearts, I believe. He does stuff like that.
I remember it was like the first movie release of '99. It was like the first one.
Yeah, well, because 99 is such a banner year, we don't think of that as a 99 film because it came out that early. It's a stupid weepy. And then you find a balance. I'm actually a big fan of recent Best Picture winner Coda. It's a little cheesy, but the family is handled with real deftness and care,
Yeah.
as much as I, an able-bodied person, can tell, because it doesn't pity them. It goes through a lot of the motions, but it's the nuances of that movie, and especially the way they perform it and the way that it is subtitled the entire way through, both when they're speaking and when they're signing.
Yeah.
Which is very cool and kind of radical. Whereas, say, Children of a Lesser God, because it's based on a play, so that, you know, the William Hurt character is always translating for us, whereas Ebert pointed this out in his review of Children of a Lesser God, that they should have subtitled Marlee Matlin instead of having William Hurt translate for her, because it's a film, and they should have thought that through, which would have been kind of revolutionary. Marlee Matlin still, of course, wins the Oscar for that, for a role she did not play on stage.
Okay.
But yeah, so this is like 14 years earlier, and this gets a lot of things right, as far as I can tell. I haven't shown this to my friend Elsa, but I'm sure she's seen it and has pretty strong opinions about its portrayal, because she, like, you know, will write articles about how Daredevil the movie is just garbage.
Okay.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah. Real quickly about Coda, I remember it was kind of a weird award season, because that always was my favorite. I saw that movie on Apple TV last August and cried my eyes out at the end. I thought it was just the most wonderful movie. I absolutely adored it. And so that was my favorite. And then you had all, because it started gaining steam as, it might actually win. Then you had all these people, like, you know, criticizing it and it's not worthy and blah, 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 blah. And I'm over here like, no, I think it's worthy.
And they
really good.
There's a single landmark theater in Shoreline, Washington, so 5 minutes from my house. I live in Seattle, but on the border, the Landmark Crest. So I got to see Coda in theaters. They actually four-walled it there, and I saw it the second day, the first Saturday, and there were a lot of deaf and hard of hearing people in the audience. So it was for them, and that was a great experience. So the people who watched it by themselves on Apple TV when it started getting praise and like started turning on it, they didn't have the experience that I did, that this quietly revolutionary film was changing a lot of people's lives, and you can see that in an audience that people did not get at home.
And it's just a great film. Like, it's film. Entertaining. It's a great family story, amazing performances. I was so happy to see Troy Kotsur win the Academy Award. He was, you know, well deserved, and a great movie.
And so they had the same idea. So this movie has, you know, the line, "Don't patronize me and don't feel sorry for me." That is really the crux of Don, is that he does not want to be treated differently. Like I said, you know, disability is not something to be ashamed of, and Don is not ashamed of being blind. He's been blind from birth, and even if he wasn't, he's learned how to deal with it, and he just wants to be treated like a goddamn human being. And Goldie Hawn, you know, she's our entry point into this film, into this story. The Jill character, she can be a little ignorant, but she, you know, it's just because she's a 19-year-old hippie and doesn't really know much. So we don't feel bad that she says a couple weird things to him, because she learns from it really quickly, which is way better than just a silly little weepy.
Yeah. I liked her arc too. I like that she, at some point, she's like, I don't like to stay long enough with the man to find out if they'll dump me or if they'll leave me. Like, she just kind of goes from one person to the next and is kind of afraid of actually committing or trying to be with anyone. And, you know, her storming out towards the end, I'm like, really, is this going to end with her just leaving him like upset on the floor? I'm like, come on, movie. And like, seeing Ralph was the guy's name, right, downstairs, and she has like a little bit of an epiphany. And I like that the movie, it doesn't tell you everything that's going to come next. It's kind of an open-ended final scene, but you get the sense that she's finally coming around and wants to, you know, explore what this relationship could be with Dawn.
And she learns to forgive him, because he says something very cruel to her. Because you're crippled, I'd rather be blind. So, like, you know, that's like, you know, the big gasp shock moment that I'm sure goes crazy in a Broadway audience.
Oh, right.
But yeah, he has a bit to answer for with that line.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
which is really cool.
They're flawed. They don't always say or do the right thing.
And I think this was in you brought this up, the Gene Siskel review. Their flaws are what makes this play and this film interesting, because it's a very small film. Not a whole lot happens in it, and it's not always the most visually dynamic film, but still the apartment looks good. The actors look great. Goldie is gorgeous in this.
Gorgeous.
But it's just this quiet little tiny film that I'm so happy that ran for almost 3 years on Broadway, and I guess was a big money maker at the box office, because we were still watching movies like this at the time, and I'm really glad that it took off and it didn't have to be bombastic about anything, that the villain character actually has his best interest at heart. Everybody is right and wrong at the same time, which is the best these kinds of movies can do, is that you understand everybody, but you also dislike everybody. Right. Every once in a while, and then the director shows up and is comic relief character, a bit of a foil. This happened nonstop in comedies, in plays in the 60s and 70s. Neil Simon perfected this.
Yeah. So Ralph, the kind of despicable director who did, like, he's forcing all these women to audition naked for the show. And they are making fun of the San Francisco film scene, but this is also making fun of the New York films, the theater scene, the New York theater scene as well. So, and this is the same thing I brought up for Play It Again, Sam. By switching from New York to San Francisco as a person from the Bay Area, they get a few things wrong. So in the play, the mother, I assume, comes from upstate New York, like New Rochelle or Scarsdale. Here she's from Hillsborough, which is on the peninsula, like near San Mateo, near Palo Alto. This is old money, and now it's Silicon Valley money. My father worked in healthcare, and these were where like the CEO people lived. Like, I've been to their houses that have like tennis courts. But he keeps on saying, like, she's like, I came down from, or I was up in. They forgot to change that part of the script because she should be coming up from the peninsula, or, oh, you're down there. They literally just forgot to change the direction. And it's a tiny little thing that bothers me, that they shifted to San Francisco for whatever reason, but didn't totally follow through. Yeah, so the original play is set in Manhattan, and then for the script they changed it to San Francisco. So that's really interesting that we would talk about two movies from 1972 that. So Play It Again, Sam, what on stage was in New York, and then they switched it to San Francisco for the movie. That's really interesting that we would talk about two movies from the same year where they both did the same thing in the translation from stage to movie. And is that just to save on money? Like, why even for this movie? It's so much of it is inside. I feel like we had a lot more outside scenes and material in Play It Again, Sam. I feel like in Butterflies Are Free, you could just set this in New York and just, because there's just like that one or two scenes where they're on the sidewalk or in the car. Interesting.
Yeah. Like you brought up on Play It Again, Sam, it might be an actor's strike thing or whatever the strike was, or it's just because of the Goldie Hawn hippie character. They thought, okay, it's a hippie, let's go to San Francisco, because her character, especially in the film, reads much better as a San Francisco hippie than a New York East Village hippie. So that change does make sense. And she comes up from LA, and that makes sense. I haven't read the play, so I don't know where she comes up from in the New York setting. So that kind of works. But yes, as opposed to Herbert Ross, who actually, I know in our episode I said he doesn't really film things that well. He films things just fine, but he's more of a filmmaker than the director of this. The director of this didn't really feel like going outside because they just wanted to shoot the play, which is already almost 2 hours long.
And so the finished film, I want to say, was about 1 hour and 48 minutes, something around there. I felt like the running time was fine. I didn't feel the length of it. I think if it had gone another 20 to 30 minutes, maybe I would have, but I felt like the length was fine.
Yeah, because it's really just like 2-3 scenes, plus some outside stuff that is probably added to the story. Like, he probably, like, scene 2 is him coming in the silly outfit and the French Legionnaire's hat that he wants, because it's San Francisco. It's Haight-Ashbury. I'm allowed to look different and goofy. Sorry, Mom, that I'm not like this prissy little boarding school type kid.
Yeah, I mean, my main criticism for the movie you just hit on was that I felt like visually it could have had a little bit more going on. I mean, when the director goes handheld right at the end, I went, oh, like a visual choice. That's not just static camera, two people talking.
Yeah.
So the fact that this got an Oscar nomination for best cinematography really baffles me, Mark.
It's really weird. I don't know what's so they had like 2-3 big movies this year, and then the rest is just a shotgun blast of just random stuff. This is the year of Deliverance. Why isn't Deliverance getting more nominations? It's so weird.
Frenzy, we just talked about Frenzy by Hitchcock.
Frenzy.
That movie is shot really well. Like there's some dazzling camera work in that movie. Why would that not get in for
Did that get nominated for anything?
Nothing. It got in at the Golden Globes in like 4 or 5 categories, including director for Hitchcock, and then it did not get a single Oscar nomination. We just talked about that about a week and a half ago, and I was like, how did this movie not get at least cinematography, if not maybe director for Hitchcock? This is crazy to me.
Well, I'll hear this on the episode, but like that's not a very well liked film, I guess, because it's his first like R-rated film, and it's kind of nasty. It's really dark, and it's about sexual assault and rape and murder and blood, and it's a nasty film. So maybe at the time people were not really fans of it. I saw it like in 2000, and like this is freaking rad.
Yeah, but Clockwork Orange got a Best Picture nomination,
right?
And that movie is pretty dirty and disgusting.
Yeah, but Kubrick's the cool new kid, even though he's been making movies for 20 years at that point.
Yeah. So I think it was the subject matter of Frenzy, more than anything else that it wasn't able to make it to the Oscar stage. A little sleazy. Yeah, so that makes sense. But if you're just, I always feel like the technical categories, it shouldn't really be about the subject matter. It should be about the visual style. You shouldn't be like, well, I don't like the subject matter of Frenzy, so even though the cinematography is outstanding, we're just going to ignore it. Like that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, like how many like non-Western Charles Bronson films were ever nominated? Like Justice for Death Wish or something. I don't know. Like
original song, they don't ever care about the quality of the movie.
No, we just not even today.
We just talked about Ben, the sequel to Willard, the rat horror film. It won the Golden Globe for Best Song, and it got nominated for the title song Ben, sung by Michael Jackson.
Yeah, and I wrote a love song to a rat named Ben.
It's a very nice song, but I'm like, okay, like it can be a low budget horror movie sequel and get in for song, but not cinematography. That has to only be like prestigious, like acclaimed films without any murder. I don't know.
Right.
It's kind of weird to me. But yeah, I felt like in movies based on plays, I know there's only so much you can do. And if the director goes too far, it can actually take away from the movie. So if it was like too stylistic, that wouldn't work.
Right.
But I did feel like a lot of the movie was kind of flat in terms of how it was shot, and even the editing at times just felt like there wasn't a whole lot of like really good rhythm to it. So the performances saved the day and made me like the film a lot. And I would actually say, since I've started talking about 72 films for the podcast this last January, I would say Butterflies Are Free is in my top 2 or 3 films that I had not seen before. Obviously Godfather and Cabaret are right there at the top. Films I had not seen before. This is one of the best I've looked at.
Good. Yeah, it's a really sweet little film. I got a little bored the second time around, only because there's not a lot of surprises in it. It's a very strong film. It's not the most rewatchable film, but the first time I saw it, I was pleasantly surprised by it. One of my father's favorite films is 1,000 Clowns with Jason Robards, which also mostly takes place in one apartment. If you have not seen it, I highly recommend it. It's from the 60s, but it has the same kind of kindness to it. So it's about kind of the schmuck in New York who is tasked with raising a little boy, and he's just not ready for it. But it's not done in a very goofy way. It has a nice mix of drama and comedy and satire and slyness.
Yeah.
Because like I said, this movie does get its digs in at the theaters, scene, especially the fringe theater scene. Now, I'm auditioning for a play and a part in a new play, a little theater group called the Cosmic Workshop. Great name for a theater company. It's about this girl who gets all hung up when she marries a homosexual. Originally, he was an alcoholic, but homosexuals are very in now in movies and books and plays, so they changed it. Are you homosexual? He says, no, just blind. Very fun, tiny little bit, and then they bring in the director, who's a sleaze bag, and they get their digs in. So that probably helped it play on Broadway for a little bit longer, because it's probably making fun of the play that is one house down.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and you mentioned this Jason Robards movie. I love movies that are set in like one location, or like Before Sunset is one of my favorite films, where we're just gonna walk through Paris and talk. And then my favorite film, the one I picked for 2021, my favorite film was Mass. Did you see Mass?
Yes, I loved
Oh my
Mass.
god.
Not a play, surprisingly not a play.
And I'm like, how is this not? I mean, I'm watching it. I didn't really know much about it when I put it on. I didn't even know what like the core story was. I just knew it was getting lots of great reviews and it had a great cast. I'm like, well, let's take a look. And I was like, this isn't a play. Like, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, that's the fun thing about not that there's anything fun about the pandemic,
No.
but the choices, especially in independent film that we are making, to keep socially distanced and to keep COVID protocols, have led to a lot of films that feel like plays, which I'm very happy about.
Yes.
Or things that are like horror films, like both Alex Garland and Ben Wheatley both said, oh, it's a pandemic, I'm going to go out into the woods and have a freak out with like one or two characters. Have you seen Men?
Yeah,
yet?
I saw Men a few weeks ago because I adore Alex Garland, and it came to like one screen in all of Reno. Like it did not get very many, Top Gun's on 8,000 screens, and then it was like a journey across town to see the one screen playing Men. But I just had to. I was like, I feel like this one I have to see on a big screen, and I was right. It wasn't. I didn't love the movie. I had some issues with it, but boy, it was definitely meant to be seen in a theater. And while watching it, I was like, yeah, this kind of feels like a pandemic movie because the main male character is just the same actor. So it's like, okay, that makes sense that they would shoot this in 2021. Yeah.
That's fun. Yeah. So a lot of movies are like that. And even major films, like sometimes this works for the tone of the film, sometimes it doesn't. These worlds are starting to feel very empty, which for like a horror film or like a sad drama makes a lot of sense. So you get to lean into that. I see a lot of submissions for New American Cinema that come through the festival, and a lot are like that too. That they only have like 15 days, and they go out to Ohio and have it play Los Angeles, and they just tell these very small compact stories that are just a little eerie in the corner. Or you make a decision like Everything Everywhere All at Once, which
I still haven't seen. I need to see that movie.
Okay, so I won't say much, but the main thrust of it mostly takes place in one large building.
Okay.
And that is not only budgetary, but I'm guessing also for pandemic reasons.
I want to say I follow Jamie Lee Curtis on Instagram, and I feel like I remember her posting once that they finished shooting the movie days before the March lockdown. I think they filmed it right before. I'm not 100% on that. I remember reading that in her Instagram saying like she said something like it's been a while. Like we shot this a while ago. It was like one of the last movies to wrap right before March 13th or 16th or whatever that was.
I'm very happy to be wrong about that.
So yeah, and it's do you play that game? Every film I watch that's coming, I'm like, when was this shot?
Exactly. Because it's we're going to look back on this. I know a lot of people want to pretend that this never happened, but for me, it's a very fascinating shift in film and how we shoot them and where we shoot them. So I hope people keep their eyes on these last couple years and the next couple years and how these films are being shot and how they're being cast and where they're being shot.
Yeah. But we have learned like you can delay a movie a while and it does perfectly fine. Top Gun was shot in 2018.
Right.
Margaret, 2018.
Yeah. And you know what? It's actually a great movie.
It's a lot of fun.
I loved it. I might see it in 4DX in a couple days, which is where the chairs move and they blow like smoke and water on you.
One of my teacher I work with, she works just across the hall from me. She told me yesterday she was seeing it for a third time last night, and she said she hadn't been to a movie theater in 6 months, and she's seeing Top Gun for the third time. I'm like, okay, there's something going on here. that you don't bother to go to a movie theater for 6 months, but you see Top Gun 3 times in 1 week. I'm like, wow, okay. I don't know if it was that good, but okay, enjoy yourself. But it's a lot of fun. Yeah. Top Gun, different little stylistically than Butterflies Are Free, but it's a different time.
Very much.
So anything else you have to say about our movie today? I mean, I just want to mention I really, really loved Eileen Heckart's final scene. We do get a great close-up of tears like hovering in her eyes when she recognizes that she really wants to bring him home, but she knows she can't. She needs to let him live his own life. And you see her, it doesn't trickle down her cheek, but she, like, you see tears in her eyes. I thought that was a very powerful moment too. I wanted to mention that.
Yeah, what a gift of a role to give somebody. She probably saw the script, said, I can do this. And if I can't, I'm going to learn how. Yeah. Because like I said earlier, this could have been a really cringy, bad role, a bad performance, but she finds every angle of it. And, you end up rooting for her at the end. Because it's not Don that needs to self-actualize. He's already self-actualized. He had to grow up really fast. She needs to self-actualize as somebody who is not just a protective mother.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
really cool. This whole movie is about self-actualization in three different forms at three different ages.
Yeah, and I think the movie could have been really cringy if it had just been written slightly different. If the Goldie Hawn character was too big and brash, and if the mom was vindictive and nasty, or playing more like comically broad or something, it could have just had like a little bit different, and the movie could have just failed big time, or the play too. But I think the characters were written really well, and that comes across in the movie.
Yeah, it's too bad people don't stage this anymore. Maybe they think it's dated. I think with the right direction and maybe actually casting a blind actor in the lead, you can do a lot with this in a way that, like, because I said, like, nobody's going to stage play it again, Sam, anymore. It has too many weird elements. But if Wait Until Dark could be revived a decade ago with Marisa Tomei and Quentin Tarantino, they can probably pull this off, because Broadway right now is either giant musicals based on movies or like four-hander comedies.
Wait, okay, so I've like a very vague memory of this. So 10 years ago, they brought back Wait Until Dark, and Tarantino's was in it?
Tarantino played
Marisa Tomei?
Marisa Tomei was Audrey Hepburn, and Quentin Tarantino was Alan Arkin. Yeah.
Was this on Broadway?
It was on Broadway.
For how long? Was it just like a quick little run? Like a Misery kind of run?
I think, Misery closed early.
Okay.
Yeah, that was considered horrible, because Bruce Willis was also couldn't remember his lines, which now we understand why. But he had an earpiece in. And Laurie Metcalf was Kathy Bates, and Laurie Metcalf is somebody who keeps on winning Tonys, but then these plays not really lasting very long, which is weird, because she's a remarkable actress and should have won the Oscar for Lady Bird over Allison Janney.
I've talked about that before.
Yeah, but we take her for granted because she's so good. But yes, Wait Until Dark had a Broadway run in the last 10, 15 years, and it was those two. And have you seen the movie?
I've seen the movie a couple times. I like the movie a lot.
Scary freaking movie. Can you imagine that on stage?
Because Tarantino.
And you get to play with the lights of that. It's not like there's this movie, actually Loyola did it, but I saw it in London a while ago, called Black Comedy, which starts in the dark. It's people throwing a party at their apartment, at their flat in London. And then all the lights go out, but for the audience, all the lights go up. So for 90 minutes, we watch a comedy of people they're doing like a swinging door screwball comedy in pitch black darkness for them. So they're crawling over furniture and kissing the wrong people. So you can do stuff like that on stage. And hopefully Wait Until Dark, you can kind of do that, because, the climax of that is her starting to break all the lights, so she can have power over the criminals who are trying to get to her.
That's interesting.
And
Butterflies Are Free, when I pulled up this image behind me on YouTube, when I typed it in, the title, most of it wasn't all the movie. A lot of it looked like modern, like, play versions of,
good.
So I think it's being performed somewhere, if not like right now, like in the last 5 to 10 years. I do think it's being performed a little bit.
Yeah, just not in Seattle. And Seattle has a very particular way of doing theater and choosing things. We're making a very conscious choice to, produce plays by writers of color, non-binary writers, female writers, and so this would not fit at all. This 53-year-old white blind dude play with a goofy little hippie. So I can see why. Like maybe right outside of the city, in regional theater, it is being done. I would like to see it. I'm sure it could kill it with the right things, and it's really cheap to produce. It's 4 characters. It's one location. It's an apartment.
Yeah, no, I would if this were to come around, I would love to see it performed on stage. It'd be interesting. So my last question about the movie, Marcus, if they made this movie today, if they made Butterflies Are Free as a film in 2022, how do you think what would it look like, do you think?
It would, I say this a lot, it would be a smaller, like, art house film festival type movie.
Okay.
And they would expand it and open it up way too much.
Okay, like
If
go
it was for
outside
film,
the apartment.
yes, because I wish we can go back to the 50s, 60s, and 70s when we produced live plays on television on an almost weekly basis
Mhm.
in the Playhouse series or things like that. And we don't have that anymore.
Right.
Netflix is starting to become a place to produce, to adapt musicals, but
Mhm.
not things like this. And
Yeah.
Broadway HD could probably not give a shit. Um, I I I I don't know what this would be. It would be probably a much darker tale. They probably would say, "Oh, the humor is offensive. We wouldn't find any of the humor in this," and they would make something like At First Sight.
Okay. I feel like
Maybe,
they could get a dynamite actress at least
yeah,
to play Mrs. Baker.
yeah, maybe they could, take a cue from Coda. Coda, of course, is not really a big moneymaker, but it got Apple its award, and it got
Mhm.
the first streaming Best Picture winner.
Yep, Netflix
So,
still has not won Best Picture. They got
and
close.
I'm sure you've seen the news that they're cutting a lot of budgets from their films. They got rid of
Yeah.
they're getting rid of their live action family department, and they're cutting the 30 million and under budgeted films, which are where the interesting things are.
Oh, I
So they're
didn't
going to
see
keep,
that.
yeah,
Okay. I read that like they didn't want to do a lot of these projects like The Irishman, where that movie cost what, like 200 million or something crazy. And
right.
but like under 30, they're cutting too. Why would they do that?
Um, well, because my guess is that they thought that's where the awards baits were, and they've been trying for years, and well, I guess never get it. So they're giving up. They've wasted so much money, and they wasted money on really cool things like Jane Campion, like Scorsese, like Spike
Mhm.
Lee, like Alfonso Cuarón. But now
Yep.
they're probably just going to be in the Red Notice business.
Red Notice 2, 3, 4, 5, and on.
Yeah, stuff, or the Adam Project stuff that and Red Notice is a little too expensive. Adam Project is closer, so 60-70 million range. That
Mm.
would be worth not advertising ever and having people stumble upon it. I only watched Adam Project because it was the subject of a Flophouse podcast
Mm.
episode. I have no interest in stuff like that. If it's not in the theater, I know this is a little snobbish, but there is a certain process that movies go through to get to a theatrical release that I think is necessary for certain kinds of films,
Mm.
certain kind of big budget films. Yes, they take away final cut from the director a lot of the time, or they focus group it to death. But there is a certain level of quality that a lot of these Netflix movies are just not passing. They're not
Yeah.
not pushing. They're not going above that bar at all. And it's very frustrating to see our friends and family talk about these movies that don't exist, in my opinion. I mean,
Well,
they've given people plenty of work, and God bless them, and the good things have come out.
mhm.
But Netflix has no quality control,
Mm.
and now they're getting rid of the only parts that I found interesting, like the more art housey stuff. I'm gonna move over to Hulu and Prime at this point.
Mm.
Sorry.
Well, I'm not willing to ditch Netflix yet. I mean, they're still putting out some good stuff. Like I loved Heartstopper, and I binged all of Stranger Things, and they gave my favorite Sandra Bullock a home for Bird Box and The Unforgivable. So I'm okay with Netflix right now. But if
Totally.
it gets to a point where, yeah, the quality control goes down and it's just like they're just pumping out stuff that I'm not interested in, that will be. I have not found a lot of original content on Amazon that I've really liked the last 6 to 12 months. I haven't found very much there. Like, wasn't their only big awards player being the Ricardos? I feel like that was the only one.
From last year, yes, but
Yeah.
They had Manchester by the Sea a few years ago.
Right. Mhm.
I think they have better taste. They had The Big Sick,
Big Sick was good. Yeah.
was really cool. They also, I think their original television shows are finally hitting a good pitch right now. And I know people have kind of turned on it. I'm a huge Mrs. Maisel fan.
Oh, right. I still need to see. I've seen it through it. Did season 4 just end recently?
Season 4 just ended, and
Okay.
I think it's its strongest season yet.
Okay.
And
I haven't seen it
nobody
yet.
is talking about it.
Yeah, I watched the show through season 3, and then I've just been so busy I forgot that 4 was airing. So I'm going to watch that for sure. I actually am really coming around to HBO Max as being my favorite streaming service.
HBO Max is wonderful. They have great taste. They're better than HBO. In fact, I think they.
TCM. They have TCM stuff. They've got lots of brand new movies, and a very just slick, very easy to use. Like sometimes on Netflix I get lost. I'm like trying to find what's what.
Hate it.
And HBO Max is very just user friendly in terms of like if I want to find a certain kind of movie, I can find it within 20 seconds. It's very quick.
their original programming, HBO Max, they're taking a lot of chances on our filmmakers of color, female showrunners, and also they're importing a lot of really great British and Irish stuff. They in a way that HBO doesn't, because HBO has to keep this prestige sheen, and it's been biting them in the butt for the last 10 years when Game of Thrones is their only real hit,
right? And
they're never going to be able to replicate it, and they're going to learn the wrong lessons. Whereas HBO Max is making stuff like Minx, like Hacks, like Starstruck, It's a Sin, which is a wonderful miniseries about the AIDS crisis in the 80s.
Yeah, I need to watch that.
They're doing a great job. I know we're just talking streaming stuff now, but HBO Max is the place to be because they have TCM, they have a Ghibli, and they have just this wonderful video library. Paramount Plus has a great movie library,
right?
Because they actually held on to the last 100 years of their stuff, so you can find like some Bowery Boys stuff if you want, like short films from the 30s and 40s, and there's no rhyme or reason to them, so that's the issue. It's more like a dumping ground, more like Amazon Prime, but HBO Max is great. Netflix has occasional good movie and pretty good television for somebody, but they've cast the net so wide that the net is deteriorating as we speak.
A little bit. I'll be curious to see what happens in the next 5 years. But I just real quickly, I just before we hopped on here, I just finished season 2 of Hacks, and that show is brilliant. I love that show. It's so great.
Season 2 better than season 1. Season 1 was a great prologue to a story. Like the storyline of season 1, that should have been the first 2 episodes, in my opinion. But I love a road trip, and so they put Deborah Vance out to the world so we can actually see how insane she is next to other people. And that's really cool. But I love showbiz stories. I love road trip stories. And they actually gave the lead more nuance and let her be way gayer, which I really appreciated. Such a good show, and it ended so well.
Yeah, and I don't know, it had a sense of finality to the last episode I watched this morning. I'm like, I wonder, is this going to be a 5-6 season show, or is this just going to maybe? I can't imagine it's over already. It's so popular and it's doing well. Yeah,
a lot of people are saying that, but the lead does, like, they're actually like it ends that road trip story, but there's a huge way for it to go.
Absolutely.
Now that the lead is not working for any more spoilers for people who haven't seen the show yet, but you know, it's a sitcom, so things will come back to normal. That's how sitcoms work. You know, the idea of a sitcom, because this is a sitcom, is the push-pull between wanting to do something different and break out of your mold, and then by the end you're back into the mold. That is the formula of a sitcom, episode by episode.
Yeah, but bringing it back to Butterflies Are Free, I feel like this movie, I don't think this is unless it just had some sort of killer cast, I think this would be, it would premiere on one of the streaming services. I don't know if the title has enough pre-awareness. Like, the average viewer, I don't think they would know what it is. I mean, I'm a huge Goldie Hawn fan, and I had not heard of this movie before, so I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, we talk about it all the time. I don't think this one will be made into another film anytime soon. I feel like if it were to come back, it would probably be on the stage. So
totally, yeah, it would not be a film. This would not exist. That should have been my long answer.
That's the short answer after our 20 minutes about the streaming services. But it was a conversation we needed to have, because I've been thinking about like what's been going on with Netflix, and who better to talk about it with than you, Marcus?
Yeah, Netflix changed the game, and now they are paying the price because the game has caught up with them.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But I would give Butterflies Are Free like 3 out of 4 stars, like 7 out of 10. It's not a great movie, but I didn't know what to expect, and I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. And I found it really emotionally affecting in the last half hour that I did not see coming. And so, yeah, I recommend, if you're a fan of early 70s cinema, if you like Goldie Hawn, if you haven't seen this one or heard of this one, definitely check it out.
If you want like a good hangout movie, I'm glad I brought it to your attention when I gave you my list of things.
Well, we were always going to talk about it because it won the supporting actress Oscar, so we were always going to do it. But when you mentioned it and you gave me a list of a few titles you would love to talk about on the podcast, I got all excited. I was like, ooh, get to talk with Marcus about this Goldie Hawn movie, and now I've finally seen it. I really enjoyed it.
Good.
Yeah. So that takes us to our final 2 segments. The Divine Double Feature. What's something modern you would pair with this? Like, if this ended and someone were to watch one more movie that's kind of similar in tone or genre or something, like, what would you recommend?
There is a movie from 2014 called Margarita with a Straw. It is an Indian film. It's about an Indian woman with cerebral palsy who gets a scholarship to go to NYU. So she moves to New York and tries to self-actualize, and then she falls in love with a woman at NYU. So they're a great pairing because it's a great queer disability narrative from a non-US, non-white perspective. The filmmaker is Shonali Bose. She premiered it at Toronto that year, and we played it at SIFF later on. It is a fairly well-known art house film, Margarita with a Straw. But Margarita and Butterflies pair well together. Both emphasize a disabled person being able to live independently. Both leads have distinct personalities outside of their disabilities, and both romances are with able-bodied people. That last part is really important because the romances in both of these films are not fetishistic. The able-bodied partners, they don't pity the disabled people. Goldie kind of does for a little bit, but then she chalks that up to ignorance. And so it's a really sweet film. The other thing, and this is not great, the lead who has cerebral palsy, the character, is played by an able-bodied person. They tried to find somebody with the disability, but this actress was really great, and they cast her. So there is a troubling element. It's a wonderful film, but it is watching an actress play cerebral palsy, and that can be a little uncomfortable. Unfortunately, most films do that. They do not cast disabled people. They're starting to now more often, not really in American mainstream films, but certainly in European films, this is starting to happen. But that film is Margarita with a Straw from 2014.
Okay, I have not heard of that film before. Did that go to theaters? Like, was it a theatrical release? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
It had a really great film festival run, but it did play some limited markets.
Okay.
And it's accessible on streaming. It's on Canopy. If you want to rent it, it's rentable everywhere.
Okay, cool. So I was like, I would want to put on something that's kind of like a meet cute romantic comedy that's a little bit more visually inventive. So I went with the 500 Days of Summer. I thought would be an interesting film to watch right after.
Nice.
I feel like it opens up the world a little bit more. It's definitely a little bit funnier, but I feel like 500 Days of Summer also has a lot of dramatic shades to it too, and it's a great romance story. And I haven't seen that movie in like 10 years, and I kind of want to watch it again. It's been a while.
It's good. Yeah, we just ran 2 reviews of it on 10 years ago on my blog, and they had different opinions of it, which is really nice because there's one way to look at it that it's, this weird little male fantasy. Yeah. But the thing is, like, we learn in the third act that his male fantasy is bullshit, and a lot of people miss that part. Yeah. It should be more from Summer's perspective, but when we learn that his fantasy isn't right, it becomes a very wise film. And those screenwriters also did The Spectacular Now, which is a lovely little film.
That's good too.
And they also wrote The Disaster Artist.
Yep.
And got nominated for that.
Yep. I think that was the lone Oscar nomination that year for The Disaster.
Yeah, unfortunately, not a great film.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun.
I saw
it in a theater. It was like it had a great cast, and with the history I have with The Room and seeing it in the theater a lot when I was in LA and stuff, so it was fun. But The Spectacular Now would also be a good Divine double feature choice too. That's a great movie. I only saw it the one time. I think it came out in 2013. Was it 2013
or 2014? I was still working with Geeks Who Drink, and it was open when I was in Denver during QM-Con. So I think that's fall 2014.
Well, I think
maybe
it's
2013.
I think it's 13 because 14 was the year of Divergent and The Fault in Our Stars, and I think Shailene Woodley. I think Spectacular Now had already come out before those 2 movies. That's my memory.
You're right.
Am I right?
Yeah,
I'm pretty good with dates. I make mistakes here and there, but I try. It's like one podcast where I said Rebel Without a Cause came out in 1956, and then I had to correct it the next week, and I went, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry." 55. But yeah, so that's a great choice too. What you came up with, I'm excited to check it out. You always give me great titles that I don't know. And I just wrote it down here. I always write them down in my notebook. Check it out. All right, our final segment is Beyond the Flick. So I thought we'd end with talking about Heckert a little bit since she won the Academy Award. But I would love to just hear, do you have a couple favorite Goldie Hawn movies since you weren't on my episode a year and a half ago talking about her?
I didn't think that through.
Do you have any? Do you like? Is she an actress that you've enjoyed throughout the years? Do you like? Did you
Very
see
much.
Did you see anything of if you want to pull up IMDb and just look? I mean, she hasn't really been in much in the last 20 years.
Right.
Like she's semi-retired after the Banger Sisters in '02, and she came back for Snatched, which I was very excited about at the time because she hadn't been in a movie in 15 years, but the movie wasn't great. And then she's been Mrs. Claus.
Right, in the Chris Columbus Christmas Chronicles movie with her husband. I just saw Shampoo for the first time 3 months ago, and she's just outstanding in
Great
that.
Movie.
Great movie. I love
Grant.
her in that. I don't like the movie Seems Like Old Times, but I thought she was really good in it.
That was you know what Seems Like Old Times. I got the flu once when I was in like 4th grade, and I watched Seems Like Old Times like when I stayed home from school that day. It was like it started at like 9 a.m, and I started watching Seems Like Old Times. That's like my if I'm ever sick movie. Put that one on.
Great, yeah. I see. I saw it as a 39-year-old. I'm like,
okay.
The frick is this? Everybody Loves Overboard. I love her in Swing Shift. I'm a huge Zemeckis fan, so Death Becomes Her kills.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, it's really cool, and it's only gotten better with age. People have come around to its slyness, and this is going back to Play It Again, Sam. My favorite Woody Allen film is Everyone Says I Love You, which, she is the one person in that film who can actually sing because he intentionally cast non-singers for this musical. And when she does I'm Through With Love at their dance along the Seine, he told her to sing a little worse because she was too good. She's just remarkable in that. You brought up House Sitter. That's a fun movie that came out when I was like 9. And I love Steve Martin. He's my guy. But Everyone Says I Love You is the big one. And Shampoo is the big one that I've seen recently. And we'll get to another one in probably our next segment.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, Death Becomes Her that's just one of my all-time favorites. It was such a great discovery when that came out. I was 7 years old when I saw that movie.
Yes,
and I could tell it was like an adult movie that I shouldn't be watching. It was still just kind of juvenile enough, like I could really wrap my head around it and understand its themes. And so that's just that movie is fantastic.
That's the Zemeckis in him, because he is like a cynical satirist, but he also he packages them in these weird little kid-friendly, family-friendly, juvenile packages. Yeah. And that's what makes him really neat.
Yeah, I find it super depressing kind of where his directing career has gone lately, like with remaking The Witches. And now he's doing the live action Disney Pinocchio with Tom Hanks, which they just released.
The trailer came out this week.
Just released a trailer for, and I'm like, okay, but boy, he like some of his early work is so daring and innovative, and I'm like, come on, man, give us another Death Becomes, or give us something a little different and twisted. Come on.
Totally. He got lost in a motion capture land, which I actually like. I don't like A Christmas Carol very much, but Beowulf's a neat little piece of art, and I love the Polar Express. I know people are terrified by it. That's why I like it. It's a nightmare of a film. It's a roller coaster. I saw that in 3D IMAX. It blew my brain out.
I might have even written a review for the Loyolan for Polar Express. I would not have been positive. Not one of my favorites, but I don't know. If one of my nephews asked me to watch it some Christmas, maybe I'll give it another chance. I don't know. But so Eileen Heckart, so she's more known for her theater work, right? Because she's in a lot of films, a lot of television. So I was looking like television. After her Oscar win, did this give her a bump of any kind? It didn't look to.
So you know how it goes. If a woman wins an Oscar, her career gets ruined.
when a woman isn't it the best supporting actress curse?
Yeah,
it's not so much lead. I feel like it's usually supporting actress.
If it's lead, if you're like Halle Berry's career has never really recovered from winning the Best Actress Oscar, but it's a supporting actress. Like, speaking of Top Gun, Jennifer Connelly is great in it, but she doesn't really do much after A Beautiful Mind when she wins in 2002 for a 2001 film, because she hits a certain age and Hollywood doesn't have much to do with it. She's still in stuff, but she did
some good work. I would say she's one of the, like, House of Sand and Fog is great. That it was 2003, and she's in that movie with that terrible title I love about writers. What is that? movie called? I just
Which
blanked on what the one with Greg Kinnear, and it's like about a family of writers and
Oh,
novelists.
when
It
we
was
showed it at SIF,
it was called Writers, and then they
it was
changed the title to something
like
horrible.
Stuck with Me or something.
Stuck. Oh yeah, Stuck in Love. Stuck in
Stuck
Love.
in Love. No, yeah. When we showed it at SIF, it was called Writers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm like, why would we change the title?
but people only watch that movie for Logan Lerman. Otherwise, they don't know about it.
Yeah,
because he's the cute boy.
Yes, but I recommend that movie all the time when I remember the title, and people are like, "What?" And I'm like, "It's really good. Just trust me."
Yeah.
And so yes, but supporting actress winners, like, I just feel like only occasionally does it give them a big bump. And with Heckert, it looked to be just this was kind of, I mean, how old was she at this point? In her 50s? This would have been, you know, almost like an achievement award kind of a thing. But are we going to actually give her a lot of great parts in movies for the rest of the 70s?
No, not at all.
Unlikely.
Yeah, so. she gets Burnt Offerings in 76.
Burnt Offerings.
And then 10 years later it's Heartbreak Ridge.
Okay. Yeah. Clint Eastwood movie, right? In the mid 80s.
Yeah.
But I mean, really, so her like those are two of her big titles. I don't think I've seen Heartbreak Ridge. It's one of the few Clint Eastwood movies I've missed. Have you seen that one? Is that good?
Nope.
Okay.
When you're asking me like pick her best stuff, things you like, I'm like, I know her from television, but yeah. I do not personally like The Bad Seed all that much, but she is great in it, and that's also another character she did on stage and brought over with it, because she's the reason to watch that movie. And she is in Bus Stop, the Marilyn Monroe movie based off the William Inge play, which also opens up the world in a way that doesn't always quite work, because the play takes place in the diner, whereas the movie is the diner and the bus stop and on the bus and other such things. The ability to stand out in any kind of Marilyn Monroe movie is praiseworthy enough, because like Chuck Klosterman has said that because everyone says Marilyn is an underrated actress, she's actually properly rated. No, I think people still underrate her as a dramatic actress. Yes, she can be a little bit messy on the set, but there's a reason why we talk about her films so many years later. It's not because she was in Playboy and was gorgeous and was a bombshell. She's a great actress, and she's great in Bus Stop. And Eileen Heckart does a great job just trying to survive on the same screen as her.
Absolutely.
I know you go for it.
Oh no, go ahead.
I know her best from television.
Okay.
She is on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. She is Mary's aunt, Flo Meredith, nominated twice for the Emmy for a guest star. Mary's aunt, who's a reporter, and it's a very liberal character. And so she butt heads with Lou Grant, who's a more conservative character. And she's the only person from the Mary Tyler Moore Show universe that shows up on Lou Grant, the drama that is spun off from Mary Tyler Moore with Ed Asner. So I know her specifically for television. For Mary Tyler Moore, and a one-off on Rhoda. She was on the second season of Murder One, and she was on Sybil.
Oh, okay.
And she was on Alice. She's Alice's mother-in-law.
Okay, cool.
A woman that is Linda Larkin, who was also nominated for Best Supporting Actress Tony for that year. Eileen was nominated in Butterflies for Free for Neil Simon's Last of the Red Hot Lovers, which is a great play that nobody should ever do again because it's terribly dated.
Okay. Some things just have to stay in its time, right?
So yeah, when I think of Eileen Heckart, it's those, and the one I alluded to before, which is The First Wives Club.
The First Wives Club. That was like my go-to title. And I knew of her, like watching Butterflies Are Free. I like, oh, that's Diane Keaton's mom in The First Wives Club, one of my favorite comedies of the 90s.
So that would be your Eileen Heckart pick.
Yes. So I've seen The Bad Seed a long time ago. I remember really liking it. I like movies about like devilish children. Big fan. And so I need to watch it again. I looked her up on IMDb. She got an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress for The Bad Seed. So that's on my list now. I want to watch it again. I probably saw it 10 to 15 years ago. And so I'll check that one out soon. Burnt Offerings, I really liked with Betty Davis.
And Oliver Reed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oliver Reed, a really good cast in that. And yeah, The First Wives Club. It's kind of a difficult movie to pick because she's, I mean, maybe 3 minutes of the movie, like 5 at most. But she has a nice rapport with Diane Keaton in that movie. I do like that we talked about a movie today, Butterflies Are Free, where like Goldie Hawn is like the lead, and then Eileen Heckart plays the mom of her friend / romantic interest, and then The First Wives Club stars Goldie Hawn again 22 years later, and Eileen Heckart plays the mom of her friend. So it's kind of an interesting parallel there. And yeah, she wasn't going to be Heckert wasn't going to be nominated for the First Wives Club. She's barely in it, but one of the great ensembles. And I got to talk with the casting director of the First Wives Club, Eileen Starger. Was that in September, and we talked about the 25th anniversary of the First Wives Club and had an amazing 2-hour chat. Definitely go back to the archives and look at that if you're a fan of the First Wives Club. I really picked the brain of the casting director, how she came to choose all of those amazing actors in that ensemble in probably would have been like 1995. I think we started shooting it in 95. So that that came out in September on the podcast. It was a bonus episode with Eileen Starger. So check that out.
Nice.
And I back then, I don't know if I was that familiar with Heckert. I'm trying to remember if we talked about Eileen Heckert. I feel like she might have brought her up. I feel like that happened at one point, but back in 2021, when we were much younger, Marcus, one of the few main actors in the First Wives Club I was not that familiar with was Heckert. I'm very happy now. I know a little bit more about her career and finally got to see her Oscar-winning performance in Butterflies Are Free. All right, so that takes us to the end here, Marcus. I'd love for you to tell our listeners where they can find you online and anything you'd like to promote. Now's the time.
You can find me at marcusgorman.com. I am between film festivals right now, and I am working on getting some plays up. I'm working on filming a play because I'm filming a play for theater because the theater has chosen not to have audience members. It's a small black box theater. There's no HVAC. I totally understand. Keep the audiences safe. So we're going to film it. It used to be called Anxiety. I believe it is now, we're looking for titles. It is now called How to Leave, Paragraph, and How to Stay, which is 4 interconnected monologues about anxious people at different parts in a romantic relationship, engagement, divorce, about to get married a second time, and just moving in with somebody. And I'm hopefully doing a reading of one of my other plays, 2 of my other plays this summer, one I wrote before the pandemic and one I wrote during the pandemic. So everything I'm doing now is theater based, and you can find out more at marcusgorman.com. If you want to find out some of my old stuff, that's there. But all 3 of these are under new projects on the site.
Very cool.
And I'm looking to do more film programming at other festivals outside of SIF to fill in the half of my year where I don't work for them. And I have a few feelers out. I am going to be doing some hosting and Q&As with the North Bend Film Festival, which is a genre and horror film festival done in the town where they shot Twin Peaks, which is only a 40-minute drive outside of Seattle. And they have a great single screen theater in downtown across the street from the cafe.
Oh no, really? Oh, that's awesome. So
it's a tourist section.
So the shooting location of Twin Peaks is about a 40-minute drive outside of the hub of Seattle.
Yep. Yeah, North Bend, just before you hit the mountains, just before you hit the Cascades. It's a lovely little former train depot town.
Okay, cool. I'm going to Walla Walla, Washington for the first time later this summer. Have you been there?
I have not. That is the southeast edge of the state. Yeah. That is 6 hours away from
6-hour drive. Okay, we might not make it to Seattle on that trip, but I would love to check that out. And what a cool festival that sounds like. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, North Bend Film Festival. It's in early August, and it's friends of the people who also do the Brooklyn Fright Fest and the Overlook Festival. Okay. So they decided one of them moved out to work at Microsoft out here, and they thought this is a great location festival to do this. Okay. So that's really cool. This will be their 5th year.
Okay. We'll definitely keep an eye out for that. Thanks for being here, Marcus. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. We'll get you back on the podcast at some point, talk about another movie. Thanks to all of you for listening. You find us online at filmat50.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Check out my new YouTube channel. I guess it's not really new anymore. It's been around for a few months, but Brian Rowe Video. If you like Oscar history, I'm doing videos every week about the Academy Awards. Until next time, remember, 50 never looked this good.